Hi everyone, welcome to this video on how to name ionic compounds. We have different sort of subclasses and classifications that we put our compounds into for naming them. If you watched the previous video, we talked about writing a formula for ionic compounds. Okay, so you may want to watch that one before this one, but this video is on how to name ionic compounds. But we are only going to focus on naming when we're looking at our main group cations or metals. Okay, we know that ionic compounds are when we have a transfer of electrons between a metal and a non-metal. Okay, and so the metal forms a cation, so often you'll see cation just represents, that's talking about the metal. And the anion, we know that nonmetals gain electrons, and so the anion is the nonmetal. Okay, so our group 1 to 3A elements, okay, so your representative metals, okay, they are named in a specific way, in a certain classification. And to me, this is probably the easiest way or the easiest naming system of the ones that we're going to go through in different videos. And that is because you basically just recognize the cation and you look at your periodic table. If it's in group 1, 2, or 3A and it's a metal, then you just name it as it says on the periodic table, exactly like it. So the cation, so here we have, of course, sodium. We know it forms a +1, it's in group 1. Potassium's in group 1, forms a +1. And then calcium and magnesium are in group 2, and so they form a +2 charge. And we would just name these as sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. So that's the cation part of the name. Of course, we have two parts to the name. We have a cation and the anion, the metal and the non-metal. And so we follow this name for the cation by the name of the non-metal. So non-metals or anions are named by replacing the ending of the name with the suffix IDE. Okay, so instead of bromine, we would name it as bromide, IDE, because we've got this negative charge now. Okay, chlorine wants to gain 1 electron, so it has a -1. It's in group 7. It's called chloride, fluorine, fluoride, iodine, iodide. So these are your halogens, and they all form a -1 charge because they want to gain 1 electron. Okay, nitrogen's in group 5, so it needs 3 electrons to be like the nearest noble gas, so it has a -3, and we would call it nitride. So you drop the ending and add IDE. Oxygen becomes oxide. Most everyone's heard of, carbon monoxide and so forth, so you probably heard that before. Phosphorus is also in the same groups, in the same group as nitrogen, so it is phosphide. Sulfur is sulfide. Okay, sulfur is in the same group as oxygen, group 6, so it needs 2 electrons to gain 2 electrons. So the ending is IDE. So you just put these together. You name the cation as it is, and you name the anion. Okay, you do not specify the charge of the ion. Okay, and you don't have to specify how many ions you have of each when you name. Okay, it's understood that we know these are our representative metals and nonmetals, and so it's understood that we know the charge of these. Okay, so the most common mistake that I see is that once we learn all the different classes of naming, that students will try to add too much to this section, to this name, and they'll start bringing in other things from different ways of naming instead of just keeping it simple. So this is the simplest one. You name the metal, you name the non-metal, and you end in IDE. So if sodium and fluoride make a bond, now we have an ionic compound, sodium fluoride. Okay, notice that fluoride is FLUO, not FLOU. Okay, you can see that on your periodic table. Magnesium chloride. So we don't have to represent this 2 in any way. We simply just say magnesium for Mg and chloride for Cl. And that is the name for the ionic compound when you have main group metals, group 1 through 3. Okay, so let's name these 3. We have Li, so if you look at your periodic table, this would be lithium. And we have Br, which is bromine, but we know it ends in IDE. So lithium bromide. Simple, don't add anything to it. You do not have to represent the number in the formula. So here is magnesium. Instead of iodine, it's iodide. IODIDE. Al is aluminum and chloride. So when we name ionic compounds and the metal is in group 1, 2, or 3, it's a main group metal, you just simply name the cation as it is on the periodic table, and you name the anion or the nonmetal, and you end in IDE. Thank you for watching.